They say the moon has always been there, watching us, guiding us. Since the first humans looked up, it was our constant companion, the silver guardian in the night sky. But then, one night, it was gone. No warning, no flash, no explosion, just emptiness. At first, people thought it was some atmospheric trick. Clouds, smoke, maybe an eclipse no one predicted. But as the hours passed, the truth settled in like a sickness in the air. The moon had vanished. The first to notice were the night shift workers, long-haul truckers and insomniacs staring through their windows. Some filmed the sky, shaking their phones in disbelief. The images went viral within minutes, a pitch-black void where the moon should have been. Soon, every major news network lit up. Scientists scrambled to respond. Astronomers pointed their telescopes toward the familiar orbit and found nothing. No fragments, no dust, no remnants of what had once been Earth's oldest companion. It wasn't destroyed, it wasn't hidden, it was simply gone. By morning, the oceans revolted. Without the moon's pull, tides turned chaotic. Massive waves battered coastlines from California to Japan. Ships were capsized, docks were swallowed. Coastal cities declared emergencies as saltwater flooded streets. But even worse than the flooding was the silence. Animals sensed it first. Dogs refused to go outside. Birds circled aimlessly in the sky. Whales stranded themselves on beaches by the thousands, as if running from something no one else could hear. Humanity panicked. Theories erupted, a superweapon, a cosmic event, a punishment from God. But late that night, when the world was still reeling, a faint transmission broke through the static. It came from an observatory in New Mexico, a strange repeating signal. 3 words echoing again and again, and somehow everyone who heard it understood. Not yours anymore. At first, people laughed nervously. A hoax, surely. Some hacker messing with radio frequencies. But when other observatories confirmed the signal, the laughter died. Because the signal wasn't just in English. It wasn't in any one language at all. It was in all of them. A universal message that bypassed translation. No matter what country you were in, no matter what tongue you spoke, the words were the same in your mind. Not yours anymore. And then the world went quiet. The President of the United States addressed the nation within hours, his voice trembling despite rehearsed calm. Other world leaders followed, each promising investigation, cooperation, and reassurance. But their eyes gave them away. They didn't know what was happening. NASA released grainy telescope footage. The moon's orbit was empty, not disturbed, not shattered, not obscured. Just empty, as if someone had reached into the sky and plucked it out. And then came the second message. This time, it wasn't faint. This time, it was broadcast across every frequency, every device, every screen. The words burned into radios, televisions and phones alike, spoken in a voice that was not human, yet somehow unmistakably clear. Experiment concluded. Phase 2 begins. Panic tore through the world. Governments tried to censor, tried to shut down broadcasts, but it didn't matter. The words had been heard. The damage had been done. What experiment? What phase 2? And then the sky began to change. At first it was subtle. Stars blinking out one by one, an unusual shimmer at the horizon. Strange auroras pulsing far beyond the poles. But then telescopes caught something no one could explain. The missing moon wasn't missing at all. It was moving, not orbiting, not drifting, but flying, like a ship. And it was coming back. The moon was not missing. It had been taken, and now the moon was returning. At first, it appeared as a faint light at the edge of deep space, far dimmer than it had ever been, moving against the rhythm of the heavens. Astronomers confirmed the impossible. The moon was no longer orbiting Earth naturally. It was traveling on a direct path, back toward us. But something was wrong. The moon was changing. It glowed with an unnatural light, pulsing like the heartbeat of some colossal creature. Jagged structures protruded from its surface, towers, spires, and patterns too precise to be natural. And then came the images. A team at the Hubble Space Telescope captured high-resolution shots before their feeds mysteriously cut out. The pictures leaked online. The moon's surface wasn't rock anymore. It was metal. The moon had become a machine. Theories ran wild. Some said the moon had always been artificial, a shell hiding something far more ancient and alien. Others insisted it had been hollowed out, repurposed into something new. But the truth would prove far worse. Nations prepared their defenses. Nuclear silos opened. Space forces scrambled to launch satellites, shuttles, anything that could serve as eyes in the dark. Yet every time a probe approached the returning moon, it vanished. No wreckage, no signal, just silence. It was as if the moon swallowed them whole. And then, on the 12th night since its disappearance, the moon reappeared in the sky. Not where it belonged, not in its steady orbit, but closer, too close. It filled the night sky like a looming predator. Its glow was not silver, but cold and metallic, casting the world below in a pale, artificial light. And in that light the world felt observed. Billions stood outside that night, staring up in awe and terror. The moon had returned, but it was not the same. At 3:12 a.m. Eastern Time, the third message came. This time, it wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a faint broadcast. It was projected directly into the minds of every human alive. Phase 2. Subject awareness confirmed. People screamed. Some clutched their heads. Others fell to their knees, weeping, babbling prayers. For the first time in history, every single human being shared the same moment of terror. Governments collapsed into chaos. Leaders demanded answers from one another, each as helpless as the rest. The United Nations convened an emergency session, but before the delegates could even speak, the chamber's electronics burst alive. Every microphone, every camera, every speaker, the alien voice filled the hall. You were never alone. You were never free. You are the control group. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some delegates fled. Others sat frozen. The words continued. Observation complete. Variables recorded. Stability achieved. Phase 3 begins. And then the chamber went black. In the streets, riots broke out. Millions demanded the truth. Had the moon always been a prison? An experiment? Was Earth itself nothing more than a laboratory? Conspiracy theorists claimed vindication. Religious leaders called it judgment. Scientists tried desperately to calm the world, but even their voices cracked with fear. The moon watched silently, its new metallic surface reflecting back the chaos of the world below. And then, as if to prove its power, it moved, not orbiting, not drifting, but repositioning deliberately. The moon shifted until it hovered directly above Earth's equator, locked in place like a colossal eye. And for the first time, humanity understood what it was. Not a satellite, not a companion, but a ship, and we were inside its experiment. The moon hung motionless in the sky, an unblinking eye staring down at its subjects. Governments collapsed into emergency councils. Armies mobilized. The world's greatest minds were summoned into secret bunkers. But nothing prepared humanity for what came next. At 7:44 a.m. GMT, it began. The light of the moon intensified, no longer pale silver, but blazing white. Across the globe, shadows stretched unnaturally long, as if space itself was bending. Then came the sound. A low, vibrating hum, too deep to be natural, rattling windows and bones alike. Dogs howled, children cried, adults covered their ears, but it was useless. The sound wasn't heard, it was felt. People collapsed in the streets, clutching their heads, their memories unraveling. They screamed names of people who didn't exist, recalled lives they had never lived. Others stood blankly, as if new memories were being inserted directly into their minds. Phase 3 had begun. Cities dissolved into madness. Neighbors accused one another of being imposters. Families fell apart as parents swore their children had been different yesterday. Wars nearly broke out as soldiers received conflicting orders from commanders who seemed not to remember giving them. It wasn't just chaos. It was calibration. The voice returned, calm and cold, echoing in every mind. Subject memories unstable, adjusting. And then, the world blinked. For 5 minutes, reality itself seemed to stutter. People froze in place, caught mid-step, mid-breath, as if someone had pressed pause on humanity. When the world resumed, things were different. Entire cities had shifted subtly. Streets were not where they had been. Skyscrapers stood taller or shorter. Some people were gone altogether, erased as if they had never existed. Others appeared where they hadn't been before. Strangers with lifetimes of false memories no one could disprove. Humanity screamed. Humanity begged. Humanity realized the unthinkable. The moon wasn't just watching, it was rewriting. World leaders attempted retaliation. Nuclear missiles were launched at the moon, streaking into the sky like desperate prayers. But before they reached their target, they simply vanished. No explosion, no wreckage. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The voice returned. Control group aggression detected. Stability compromised. Countermeasures deployed. Above major cities, lights began to descend. Not bombs, Not drones. Something worse. They were machines, each the size of skyscrapers, descending silently into the atmosphere. They hovered over New York, London, Beijing, São Paulo, Cape Town, Massive. Black silhouettes against the burning sky. And then they activated. Columns of light poured from their bases, sweeping across the cities. Wherever the light touched, people fell to the ground, unconscious. Entire blocks went silent in seconds. Millions of humans reduced to test subjects with no will of their own. The experiment wasn't about to end. It was about to escalate, but not everyone surrendered. In hidden bunkers and underground networks, pockets of resistance began to form. Scientists, soldiers, and ordinary people who had escaped the initial waves of control. They compared their fractured memories, piecing together a horrifying truth. This wasn't the first time. Scattered among them were those who swore they remembered other experiments, other resets, entire cycles of history that had been erased, wars that had never been recorded, cities that had never existed. And each memory ended the same way, with the moon watching silently. The old man in the bunker said it best, his eyes hollow with certainty. They've done this before, over and over. We're not living history, we're living rounds. And every round ends the same way. He leaned closer, his voice breaking. We've never won. We've only been allowed to think we did. The moon pulsed again, brighter than ever. The voice thundered across every mind. Stability compromised. Subject resistance identified. Termination protocol prepared. And humanity realized the experiment was nearly over. The machines hovered silently over the great cities of Earth, their lights sweeping like search beams across the ruins. Where the light touched, humans crumpled like puppets with cut strings. But in the shadows, beneath the surface of a ruined Denver, the resistance gathered. They were a ragged collection of survivors. Scientists, soldiers, children, and the broken-hearted. Some clutched weapons. Others clutched notebooks filled with equations, or drawings of cities that no longer existed. Morgan Hale, once a NASA linguist, now the reluctant voice of humanity, stood at the center. She had been the first to decipher the transmissions hidden in the moon's pulses. She knew something the others didn't. The moon isn't their weapon, she whispered. It's their laboratory. The others stared at her. What do you mean? Captain Grant asked, his uniform ragged, his hands shaking from too many sleepless nights. They aren't trying to destroy us. They're trying to perfect us. Each cycle, each reset, each war, it's data. We are their experiment, their unfinished equation. A silence fell over the bunker. Then the old man, the one who claimed he remembered the last cycle, spoke up. Then tell us the truth, girl. Do we fight, or do we play along? Above them, the moon pulsed again. Termination protocol engaged. Stability failure. Irreversible. The earth shook. Tides rose in impossible ways. Walls of water devouring coastlines. Volcanoes erupted where there had been none. Cities sank as if the ground beneath them had been deleted from existence. The experiment was ending. But Morgan wasn't ready to give in. There's one chance, she said, her voice shaking. The signal that controls them, it runs through the moon. If we can send a counter-signal, something unpredictable, something they can't calculate, we might... Her words were drowned out by the roar of the machines overhead. The ceiling trembled. Dust rained down on the survivors. Grant grabbed her arm. Then do it. If this is the last round, let's at least go down fighting. The survivors poured everything into one desperate act. A hijacked satellite dish, hidden in the Rockies. A nuclear generator stolen from a collapsed military base. And Morgan's voice carried on a signal stronger than any they had ever attempted. Not a weapon. Not a bomb. But chaos. Morgan screamed into the signal. Not words, but every memory the resistance carried. Every fracture. Every inconsistency. Every erased name. Every erased city. Every forgotten war. The moon flared. The machines above the cities froze. For the first time in history, the experiment hesitated. The voice returned, but it wasn't calm anymore. Anomaly detected. Subject unpredictability exceeds control parameters. Experiment integrity compromised. The machines above Earth shuddered. Their lights flickered. Morgan pushed harder, bleeding from the nose, her voice cracking as she screamed forgotten histories into the sky. Remember us. Remember what you erased. And then the world went dark. For an endless moment, there was nothing. No sound, no light, no thought. Then, dawn. The moon still hung in the sky, silent, watching, but different. Its glow was no longer cold, no longer sterile. It was fractured, flickering, as if uncertain. The machines were gone. The skies were clear. The earth was quiet. Morgan opened her eyes, lying on the ground outside the bunker. Around her, survivors stirred. Not many, but some. And the strangest thing of all, they remembered. Not just the last few weeks, not just the war. They remembered everything. Cycles of history that had been erased. Empires that had never existed. Cities that rose and fell in worlds that no longer were. The experiment hadn't ended, but it had been broken. The old man laughed, a dry, hollow sound. They'll be back. You know that. Morgan stared at the moon, flickering like a broken machine. Yes, she whispered. But now, so will we.